laid-back, industry-changing mouth guards are the most protective, lightest, talkable, breathable, comfortable, drinkable, removable mouth guards. You're protected. No matter what comes your way. The SISU Next Gen. SISU. Talk, breathe, drink.
AT week 6. It's going to be a sick one this weekend. I'm excited. Favorite part of the show.
Sucks.
Especially this weekend. A 2021 from Pennsylvania is committed to Maryland. He is yet to start his 8th grade rec league. On a scale of 1 to 10, AT, 1 being the least, how much do you care?
And I have a 4th grade son. This is the rule I think that the college coaches should abide by. Right? Everybody's got their respective opinions. Here's the rule. If a kid has college coaches should not be able to offer him support in the admissions office. Come on, guys.
2021.
Still. Back off.
Oh man, my son is 11 years old, and that
it appears that he's recruitable.
I think. I mean,
it's so embarrassing, and it's actually, I hate to say it, it's actually.
Is it that embarrassing?
I almost feel like social services should be showing up at their door and saying, "Listen, we need a meeting. We need to sit down." Right?
I mean,
enthusiasm is one thing, Ryan. Okay, but come on. It's not like he's committing to Stanford.
Yeah, but he's probably, I don't know. He's probably getting a ton of money. I have no idea. Maybe the kid.
Put it this way, right? He commits to one of the best programs out there.
Yeah.
Does that program not feel like they won't still be able to get him when he's an 11th grader or a 12th grader? I mean, it's kind of a negative reflection on the confidence that program has in themselves as well. I mean, you honestly feel like unless you get him as an 8th grader.
This is like a recruiting kind of like philosophy. I do believe if you are first and you make an impact, he is least likely to decommit later. No matter what. The number of decommits has increased, say, exponentially over the last 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
We've talked to Ty Zanders a few times on our show about it. However, those decommits, the number of decommits is still massively smaller than the overall number of commits. And so from that standpoint, if you get on them early and you get them to commit, the likelihood of them decommitting later is still very, very small. Now, it could happen. And so these programs are going early for that very reason. Look, we're going to lock them in now, and we're going to continue to recruit them for the next, now in this case, 5 years, up until he signs the letter of intent. But he's less likely to do so. So lock them in now and take the risk.
It looks weird.
It does look a little weird.
Listen, let their balls drop. Let their balls drop. And then you can start to have conversations. But it's too bad. I mean, it's just too bad. Hopefully these guys will put the brakes on it in April. I think that the vote comes out in April. Is that right? Right?
It does, but it doesn't. I really think for sure it's not going to pass. And I think a lot of it's due to the fact that, say, the mid-major schools want Maryland to do what they're doing. I mean, the more that they go early, the more volatility there is in the recruiting process, which means that more of these schools that are, quote unquote, on the lower half of Division I, say 30 and down, have an opportunity to scoop up a kid later in the process that might be better than the ones that they're recruiting in the top 30. So I think that anytime that there's a unified decision in the IMLCA, immediately, whether the coaches agree or disagree with it, they're going to disagree so that there's no unified decision, because if you and I
That
have the
keeps
same
people on top.
That's right, exactly. And and it keeps the people on the bottom. And so any sort of unified decision, people are going to be like, no, I don't want it, because guys at the bottom want to work harder, they want to get on the road more, and they want to evaluate more. And so, but look, the recruiting, and everyone keeps, you know, an 11-year-old, I understand. You have an 8th grader, you understand. It is a little too early, but in terms of the parity out there, don't be blaming it on the early recruiting. It has nothing to do with the early recruiting. It has to do with the fact that there are still 70 teams and now literally 100,000 high schools playing lacrosse across the country. There's just too many good players to pick from. But look,
get it before that kid no longer has a bedtime. They will. They're going to get it before that kid, gets there. But
it's true.
They need revamping.
It's true. Okay? In other news, Princeton lacrosse faceoff guy Zach Courier may have downloaded or ordered a copy of Lacrosse Draws, aka Andy Tower.
The deflator, right? It's back in the days of basic cable and rotary phone, and he's coming out and he's grabbing the stick and he's dragging it back. And you know what? Curtin, as Timmy McEntee used to say, everybody's become a lot more educated about what you can and can't get away with and what's not. And I'm not pretending to say that it's in the spirit of the rules to. I don't fault him for doing it. I have to fault.
He's got to win the faceoff.
Listen, I don't.
The information for me to receive that video actually came from referees. World to know that these referees go back and watch the film. Now, Johns Hopkins in the whole game that he is holding his stick, he's grabbing his stick,
and they were right.
And they were right because they have their players.
Neutralize everybody's credibility. Right? That's the fine print with the move, Ryan.
The referees, which is great. I think it's great. I think that the referees taking the time to go back and watch the film and correct their misstaff that Hopkins Princeton game, and he's regarded as one. Zero question about that. And it's nice to know that that's what they're looking for, and better refs because of it. And so if you're a referee listening to this, I know Sean Murphy oftentimes watches our show. I appreciate but it's good to see that. Now, AT, you had your first ever media poll. Press the button, sent the email to Towers to give a vote, and they're like, no. But I appreciate it, Inside Lacrosse. So AT has a vote in the poll, but I'm going to ask you a few things here, AT, about your poll.
Yes.
Hofstra was number 14 in your poll and not on the national poll. Talk to me about it.
Got BU, who hasn't played many people except I'm not going to pick on BU, but let's say and I almost did. I'm looking at it, but I'm just thinking. I know that Yale's obviously a great program. I have a ton of respect for Coach Shea.
I hate Yale, though.
You never hear anybody say, "Hey, you know what? A bunch of Yale guys. It was great." Never hear that. You don't. Right? You hear it about the Cornell guys. You don't hear it about the Yale guys. No offense, John Reese. You're the exception to the rule. My boy John Basti getting it done at Sacred Heart. I saw Bobby Rushton yesterday. Everyone was picking up James. Is legit.
Good. It gives credibility to Dartmouth.
So there's a head.
Right.
They lost to Syracuse. Their only win is top 10 win. Right. In addition to beating Loyola, they beat Drexel, Siena, and High Point. Penn, you're behind Penn.
Right.
Penn's only loss is to Penn State, and Penn.
If DU beats Notre Dame this weekend, who is your
3-1?
So they're a potential number one candidate for you?
I think you have to say. I mean, listen, no Oregon cheek.
Ooh, baby.
They will lose.
Yep.
So Notre Dame and Penn.
And then I would argue Maryland does, because Maryland's going to play against a very tough Albany team. Again, we're going to Loyola.
No, they don't.
Right.
And Loyola, listen, I top 15 anymore. 2 is Towson. Right. So Loyola doesn't have any wins. They have a really close loss. Like you said last year, not too dissimilar to Marquette's best.
No, Denver. Yes, correct.
Right. So Loyola's wins are Lafayette, Towson, ahead of some teams, below other teams. Then you're just going on politics.
Yeah.
Right?
And typically, industry-changing mouth guards are the most protective, lightest, talkable, breathable, comfortable, drinkable, removable mouth guards.
And I'm going to go to you first. So you're going to give me the coach of the week. AT, what is your coach of the week?
Up for me was Darienne's finest, Matt Madelon. Nobody saw Princeton pounding Hopkins the way that they did. Joe Bresh.
There he is.
Bouncing back. 13-5 dismantling at the hands of the Days down in Chapel Hill to travel out to, as you would call it, the dentist office.
Yes.
Play against the over the last
miserable.
6 years.
Miserable fits.
What a win. And they controlled it start to finish. I mean, start to finish. So my coach of the week is Joe Bresci for the bounce back W against DU on the road. Unreal.
Yeah, just when we thought he might be, especially with the we keep referencing that 7-3 win against Furman. And Furman's showing us consistently, fortunate to witness personally, because I was on the other sidelines, Cam Broney, a guy who has gone through a lot over the way. It does take time, and no one in the country has more offenses on the struggle, and his offense is through the roof. And we're going to
the goalie from Carolina, who I believe had 17 saves in their win over and he had 4 turnovers.
Yeah.
Talk about Bernsey finding yet another guy.
Recruited players coming out of Calvert Hall. I witnessed him firsthand. He was awesome, and I'm glad he's doing well at Notre Dame.
Listen, the front runner for Defenseman of the Year right now.
Oh, he's got to be. I mean, that's
that they are going to be there in the end. That is a team that I still think goes to the Final Four. Foster Huggins will be the top 3, 4, 5 defenseman in the country, no question about it.
I agree. My runner-up for Brian Tierney from Hofstra, and kind of piggybacking off of your enthusiasm, you can see it from the U19 squad and how well they're doing, but you can also see it from face-off guys in college all time over the next 4 years. But he, yes, he was do a little bit of a.
That was disgusting. Listen, I'll just get to it. I ended up the week Sunday and ended up above 500 and 20 and 17. So you ended up snapping solace in the fact that overall I'm still up by 4 points. I have 87 correct and 70 losses, but you are the reigning champ going into this week.
So what was the final two?
The week prior, I was 20 and 14, and you were 16 and 8. Overall stats at 69 and 47 for me, and 63 and 53 for you. Right? You came back and clipped me.
Oh, okay. All right.
And I was up 6 after last week, and I'm up 4 now. But you're good with shapes, like Hanford.
Guards are the most protective, lightest, talkable, breathable, comfortable, drinkable, removable mouth guards.
Lines for the week. But the lightning round goes as follows. We're going to give 7 games over under the spread. Visits number 16, OSU at 1 p.m. on Saturday. OSU is favored by 13. Army goes to Lehigh for a 1 p.m. contest Saturday. Army is favored by 4 goals.
They are playing at home in this game. I like Army and the over.
I also like to play St. John's in a 1 p.m. contest on Saturday. SU is favored by
on St. John's. I hope for Jay's sake that St. John's can rally back, but I do.
Also taking the over. Cornell goes to number 11 UVA in Charlottesville Cornell goes to California to play number 11 UVA in a 9 p.m.
Where for Kermie and Cornell, I got UVA and the over.
What's up with Cornell? Like this is our first disagreement. Right. I'm going to go Colgate to cover here. I think this is a classic Patriot League game. I'm going to take Colgate to cover the 2.5, and I'm going to take the over in 19.5. So we've got a double disagreement there. Fairfield goes to New Haven to play number 20 Yale, who will no longer be number 20. In a 1 p.m. contest Saturday, Yale is favored by 3.5. 19.5 again is the over/under. What do you got here, AT?
I've got Yale, but I like a low-scoring game here. I got Yale and the under.
I've got yes. We're going to be right back with the rest of the Game 5, also have our Game of the Week and Rock Bottom Bowl hang.
SISU, we take a very scientific approach to making sure our technologically advanced, doctor-developed you're protected.
First one on the docket, you've got number 14, Stony Brook University, going to night games. Stony Brook is coming off a win against Fairfield, 9-6, while Rutgers is coming off.
They just are getting it done. I mean, Jim Nagel's getting it done. I am going to pick Stony Brook, although I will say I think Rutgers wins the game. But
both of them making huge.
Jorn Vandersloot? Jorn Vandersloot?
No.
Rock bottom.
That would be rock bottom. I'm going to take Rutgers here covering the 2.5. I do like them. I think the worst loss probably in recent history for Hopkins in an 18-7 loss to unranked Princeton at the time.
Best, but I think they will be at their best. I think they bounce back in a big way. I don't think Towson has
the number 18 team in the country. Loyola coming off a win against Holy Cross, 16-9, as expected, out of the top 20, most likely. Loyola's favored by 2.5 here. The over-under is 20 as well. I'm still not sold on what this Duke team is. I think Richmond doesn't give me too confidence going into the number 9 team in the country with as much offensive potency as with the points at 2.5. And I'm going to take the over as well. Interesting that you with the defense that Loyola has. Remember, individually, Loyola has some very solid mix it up. Matty Dwan is willing to mix it up there and junk it up a little bit.
He's one of the best I heard in this weekend. That's going to create some problems for Duke.
I do not disagree. So I have a little bit of Hill. And number 4 UNC in a 2:30 tilt on Saturday. You have a W, a big one in Denver, 13-9. AT, what do you have here?
Road and a team that was starving for an identity to some degree and against Johns Hopkins. I just think that Joe Bresci is ready to build on last week's performance against DU. Don't think about Hofstra's offense against the athleticism and the time scoring goals. I think that Stephen Kelly controls the middle of the field, and I like Stephen Kelly's too good. So I've got Carolina to cover this. I see it about 16-8 in favor of the Heels. So I am actually going to take Carolina.
So this one, I actually don't disagree with any of your analysis there. I think it comes down to two things. 16-8. I think this is going to be a 2-goal win for UNC, which makes me think that Hofstra covers here. Hofstra here at 2.5. I just like the vibe that Hofstra's giving right now.
I agree.
And while having home field advantage is obviously huge, this is a warm weather field. You got these guys, they're good, but you don't have the superstars and the Thompsons, and I feel like they're getting mixed out of the media here. It's a great game, and I think this is going to be a good one. What do you think here, AT?
I said last week I was not going to make the mistake. And then I get to this game, and I see Maryland favored by 3. I see the over-under at 23-5. And I them there, and Albany brings that kind of offense, and they I talked myself into Albany.
I like Albany as well. I couldn't believe the line is 3, especially after the performance. This is 23.5 is way too low. I think your 14-13 is a decent score. I really do. I take money on I take Albany on the money line on this one, and
go heavy.
Definitely.
He's getting out of the car in South Bend.
That's true. He's
in South Bend over.
I won. The over-under here is 20.
I think that this is going to be a game. The best offensive coordinator in the country. Him and Metzi, in my opinion, are the 2 best. And you got 2 awesomely the 2 best, right? Based on what they've done. You've got an awesome defensive team in Notre Dame against a scary offensive team in Denver. I think Trevor Baptiste is going to the face-offs. I don't think he wins 70% against PJ Finley. I really don't. But I'm concerned to score goals. I mean, I think I read somewhere that Sergio Perkovic's shooting 10%. Is that right?
Yeah, he's 3 for when is he shot well?
I know. Listen, in the playoffs, in the
fourth quarter, yeah.
That allows your team to win the game. If Ryder Garnsey, or I should say, if Notre Dame's goal.
But how many times does Bill Belichick lose 2 games in a row? It just doesn't happen. Standpoint, I'm going to take Bill Tierney in his squad to win this game and to it. But this also could be the run and gun game that Notre Dame has. I mean, we've seen this 2 or 3 times a year where Notre Dame is we're just going to run a gun, and they do.
Jerry just wants to win, though. Jerry knows.
Yep. But I'm not sure. But 20 is a little too. You know what?
Changing mouth guards are the most protective, lightest, talkable, breathable, comfortable, drinkable, removable mouth guard. You're protected. What comes your way? The SISU Next Gen.
Crimson. Penn State coming off a win versus Penn, 14-13, and then weekend. This is a battle of undefeateds, and I think that's the reason why we put that in the game of the week. But it also is an interesting game for us. The line on the game is Penn State -3.5.
But I see a subplot here. He's not Gerard Arcieri. And does Arcieri win 70+% like he did against Penn? I don't know if it's quite that much, but I can see him winning 65% in what is a very high-scoring game, and that equating to see this is a very, very high-scoring game, a lot higher than 23.5. I like the over, Harvard and the over.
You know, Mac O'Keefe has had 1 goal in the last 2 games. I believe he only had 1 goal in the Furman, 12 goals in the Furman game, and I think there were close to 12 different scores. Individually, the defense, the attack guys for Penn State, or a great crew just to watch. I just think that 3.5 is also. I think the home field advantage is a big one for Harvard. I think that this is the game that Harvard looks championship as the game that potentially puts them into the national tournament, and so this Penn State's offense is so potent, and Arcieri in himself is Penn State's defense. Went off on a 6-tweet rant about how poor Penn State's defense is. I think they'll eventually tailspin for sure. So obviously I'm rooting for the Ivy League, but I am
for certainly with Fairfield getting off to the start that they have, Yale losing, are playing, and UVA coughing up all over themselves. Had to look at it. We had to be fair to everybody. And in the end, I hate to say it.
Fair.
Rock bottom bowl is Mount St. Mary's at Bellarmine. And it pains me to do that to Dance Mac because Timmy Mac ever, but they just are off to a tough start. Bellarmine, but I got to go with Timmy Mac, and I'm going to pick Mount St. Mary's. There's no tape stuck in the VHS. It doesn't work. Peace. With that said, I think Mount St. Mary's finds a way to win the Rock Bottom Bowl this week. I got that.
Mount St. Mary's has been 7 goals on the year. For the show today, as always, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube We'll be back next week, Wednesday, 9 a.m. to go over last week's, which is this week's, and the future week's picks and games of the week. Thank you for tuning in. And until then,